Hello everyone, back tuning today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week's 10 days. For today's second video, it's going to take us into the first week 10 days of September. September 1st tomorrow, of course. Last day of meteorological summer today. First day of meteorological autumn tomorrow. That's just way we divvy up the statistics, of course. The weather doesn't stick to any strict criteria like that, so you can get summer weather that goes on well into what we class as meteorological autumn. You can also get autumnal weather that occurs in the summer, what we class as meteorological summer, and a good example of that was what happened last night, where temperature got perilously close to freezing. In fact, actually in some parts of Highland Scotland went below freezing last night, so it's a very cold August night indeed last night. Not going to be as cold as that over the next few nights. In fact, temperatures will be lifting up by day and by night as we go into the weekend and next week too. So after those chilly couple of nights I had just recently, not going to be quite as cold as that over the next few nights. But I'll bring you up to date with everything that's going on very shortly. You're going to have a look at the GFS, the ECM and the GEM for the next week to 10 days. Just say that today's first video was our 30-day look ahead with the JMA and CFS V2 models. So JMA Friday is here on the homepage. Have a look at that. It's above bond count and see what you think. It takes us pretty much throughout the whole of September. So we're going to begin with the Central England temperature from Hadley. So this is provisional up to yesterday, up to 30th of August. We stand at 17.1 now, an anomaly of 1.3 degrees above average, so still warmer than average. That has come down a lot from where we was through the first week of the month. We actually reached at one point in the opening days of the month, I think we reached 19.9 for the CET, so that's come down a lot indeed, nearly 3 degrees from the start of the month, and it will come down a little bit more actually after last night's cold temperatures. That's going to take it down another 0.1 of a degree, I would have thought, for today. So probably going down to 17.0 provisional. And then there's normally a 0.2 or 0.3 of a degree reduction anyway. So I think we're going to come out around 16.8, possibly 16.7. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting month, the way it started off really hot and has cooled down quite considerably so. That's pretty good news for the Gazweather's summer forecast. We will be verifying the Gazweathers.com summer 2018 forecast in a week or so's time when we get all the statistics through from the UK Met Office. We had the idea that it would be a very hot start to the summer, very warm start to the summer. There'd be probably a deterioration late on. The problem has really been July, which turned out to be exceptionally hot. I'm not sure we anticipated July to be as hot as it was. I think the broad themes of this summer broadly correct, but July did turn out to be substantially hotter than we expected. But we always expected a very warm or possibly even hot summer this year when we did the summer forecast. So anyway, we're going to verify that in a week or so's time, and we will find out then exactly how we did. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Looking at Exeter today, so red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Exeter, home of the UK Met Office, of course. So we're starting off still a little bit cool at the moment, but over the weekend those temperature ensembles, upper air temperatures will be lifting up. So it is going to turn warmer over the weekend. Temperatures could well be reached around the mid-20s Celsius in central London on Saturday and Sunday afternoon. Bit of a dip away in the temperature then takes place like Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And in the second half of next week through to the following weekend, we find that the temperatures are lifting up once again. And actually these ensembles are generally trending above average throughout the first half of September. Again, not especially hot. To get really hot temperatures at this time of year, you've really got to get the upper air temperatures to 15 Celsius at 850 HPA. So we're talking about warm temperatures into the mid, occasionally possibly upper 20s Celsius, but I don't think we're seeing huge amount of sign of 30-degree heat at this stage, but that could change, of course. We could get a bit of an upgrade at some point through the first half of the month, but really looking really quite warm, very warm at times down in the south and the southeast, and a lot of dry weather too. This is an ensemble for Exeter, so it's in the southwestern part of the country, a little bit exposed to westerly winds, so it looks a little bit more unsettled than if we was looking at somewhere like London. So over the weekend, it's picking up the chance of a few showery bursts coming through there, but generally a lot of dry weather through the first week of September. Some showery conditions being indicated there for next weekend, the weekend of the 8th and the 9th of September. But again, you have to say that for the time of year, that's a pretty dry ensemble, really. Around the middle part of September, this is way in the extended range, of course, possibly size, but it goes a bit more unsettled then. But I think the emphasis through the first week to 10 days definitely is on mainly warm and dry conditions. Temperature anomalies for the weekend going from the 31st of August to the 8th of September, mainly above average. The warmest anomalies to average across Europe are now in the east and the southeast of Europe. The northwest of Europe is warmer than average, but the anomaly is kind of like a couple of degrees above average, as opposed to in the southeast of Europe, where some places are going like 8 to 10 degrees above average. So it's a warm scene, though, across the whole of Europe. Only really Ireland perched out on the very edges of Europe next to the Atlantic, coming out average there. I suppose Scotland is average as well, but it's a very warm scene. And it just depends whether you're in the west of Europe, where it's a bit above average, or you're in the east of Europe, where it is very substantially hotter than average indeed. Precipitation anomalies continue to look very dry. So broadly speaking, we've got the pattern that's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and even months, which is very dry across much of northern Europe. And southern Europe, it looks a little bit more unsettled there. Eastern parts of Spain, for example, could be some thunderstorms there. Also interesting down to North Africa, that's Morocco, just there. Looks like there could be some heavy showers of storms going on there. Over the Adriatic in towards the Balkans, a little bit wetter than average there. Despite that, it's very warm. So it looks like southern Europe continues to be at risk of some thunderstorms. Northern Europe, though, really does look very, very dry indeed, especially UK, Ireland, and over the North Sea to Scandinavia, Denmark, northern Germany, and the Low Countries. And the reason for that is quite evident on this GFS chart for Monday. We've still got the pattern that we've had. Really, we've had this since May, on and off. So we've still got this idea of the high pressure from the Azores. That's the Azores high there in the Atlantic. It's ridging into Ireland. It's ridging into the UK. And then the ridge carries on to Denmark, and then it goes further north to Scandinavia, so sort of Sweden, up to Finland, and then it backs into western parts of Russia as well. And of course, the high pressure also is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and heads up towards Newfoundland in Canada. So that's a high pressure that is covering thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles from Canada through the Atlantic, through Europe, into Russia. A very intense and large, dominant area of high pressure, and is still the pattern going on, say, that we've had since May. This set up in May, this strong blocking pattern, high pressure pattern, and we're still in it even into the start of September. So quite remarkable consistency with this continuous high pressure belt that we've had from the Atlantic through Europe to Russia. So that's how things are looking on Tuesday, and still high pressure dominates. We do change the air mass a little bit on Tuesday. There'll be a cold front moving southwards, so after a very warm start to next week, temperatures will cool down a little bit by the middle part of the week. Probably returning to some quite coolish nights. I doubt they'll be as cold as they have been the last couple of nights, but probably going to quite coolish nights again for the middle of next week, and reasonably warm sunny days. That takes us into the more extended range. So this is a week away, Friday 7th of September. The high pressure is getting itself up towards Scandinavia. Pressure's lowering in the Atlantic. That's the chart as we're running up towards day 10. This is 216 hours away. So you'll see pressure is lowering in the Atlantic. We've got this system just here. That is probably the remains of a hurricane that's heading into the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. But for us, we remain dominated by this big blocking area of high pressure for Scandinavia. If we get that pattern in January, watch out, because you can see from the isobars the air would be coming from Russia around the edges of that high pressure, and that would be bitterly cold if that was happening around 3 or 4 months on. That will be very, very cold chart indeed. Bitterly cold air will be coming out of Russia, probably bringing snow to eastern parts of the country. So, well, will we keep this high pressure Scandinavian blocking going into the autumn or winter? That's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Up to day 10, the high pressure remains dominant, blocking away over Scandinavia, and it continues into more extended range as well. Before eventually a little bit of a weakening of the reach begins to take place. We're at the middle of September now. That's Friday 14th of September. And that's as far as we can go, Sunday 16th of September. And very gradually the high pressure is weakening as low pressure begins to break it down. And this was something that was showing up on JMA Friday, whilst the first half of September looks like it'll be dominated by high pressure. We'll have lots of dry and warm weather. We may be seeing hints. We talked about this in the video yesterday. Of course, we may be seeing hints that in the second half of the month, we possibly begin to re-establish an Atlantic flow and turn things cooler, more unsettled. Start getting on with autumn, essentially, in the second half of September. We'll have to wait to see about that. It's very speculative. It's a long way off. And you would expect these models to be trying to break down the blocking area of high pressure. But what we can say is, certainly within the next week to 10 days, high pressure is going to be very, very, very dominant indeed. That's how the ECM is looking. So again, high pressure pushing through the country, going up towards Scandinavia on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. All of the days next week will be dominated by this area of high pressure. It's not overly hot with this because we're bringing the air around the top of the high pressure, rather like that. So the air is originating from a fairly long way north there. So it's not overly hot, but it will be pleasantly warm. Plenty of sunny days and probably quite chilly nights. Into more extended range, going up towards day 10, this high pressure increasingly looks like it's becoming a northern blocking type feature. So the high pressure sitting to the north of Scotland, but it's also backing up towards Svalbard, up there, very long way north, tying in with a ridge that's up there. So it looks like it's becoming increasingly a northern blocking feature. There's low pressure across central parts of Europe that will be trying to move that way. America's got low pressure in the Atlantic. That's the remains of the hurricane, of course. I think we'll have a look at that in detail in tomorrow's video after the weekend forecast, what's going on with that system. So yes, it looks as though eventually this high pressure might start to become a more northern blocking type feature. If it does, then it will turn a lot cooler, and potentially if the high pressure gets far enough north, we'll begin to run the jet stream in underneath it in that sort of direction. If we do that, then it will turn a lot more unsettled as well as a lot cooler in the second half of September. And then finally we've got the GM. Again, we've got the ridge building from the Atlantic into Scandinavia through the early part of next week, and then high pressure is dominating through much of next week. Again, it's not overly hot because the wind coming around the high pressure in that kind of direction, so it's sort of northeasterly, possibly with northerly influences. So pleasantly warm, mainly dry conditions through next week. Probably quite cold nights into the more extended range. That's how we look. This is chart for day 10, which is Sunday night for September. And it just goes on, really. The high pressure is out there in the middle of the Atlantic. It still has its ridge through Ireland and the UK. And then the ridge goes up to Scandinavia, to Norway and Sweden. It backs in towards Finland and Estonia, and then it heads into the west of Russia. The jet stream is going off up there. And, well, that's just the pattern that we have in May, in June, in July. Had it at the start of August as well, but then it did break a bit for August. But it's coming back and going to continue for a while anyway, through the early part of September. So there's no real signs of a change and a breakout from this high pressure dominated weather within the next week to 10 days. We have got the hints there that the middle and then the second half of September turns unsettled, it turns cooler, and we start to bring in Atlantic winds and get on with autumn, if you like. But of course, that's all extended stuff, unreliable time frame type forecasting. So within the reliable time frame, which is the week to 10-day time frame, high pressure will hold sway. Plenty of dry weather, probably not overly hot. It's going to be quite warm this weekend and on Monday, but after that, I think temperatures probably not too far from average, reasonably warm by day, probably quite chilly by night, and lots of dry conditions up to day 10 as well. Whether it turns cooler and more unsettled then for the middle and then the second half of September, we shall see. So don't forget to check out today's first video update. German Friday is here on the homepage. Just scroll down page, you'll find it above the pollen count. Coming up over the weekend, going to be a busy weekend of updates. Got weekend forecast tomorrow. We'll have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days. Tomorrow in detail with the GFS, the GM and the ECM as well. Also Terry Scully's autumn forecast or September forecast with perhaps some autumn hints will be released tomorrow as well. So a busy day for Saturday. And then on Sunday, it's going to be the first update for winter 2018-19. Yep, it's that time of year again when the winter updates will be kicking off. So I'm sure that will bring in a lot of interest, to say the least. Right, and that's 60 minutes. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.